Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are kind of back in War Thunder looking at some more dev server changes. So after the dev server closed yesterday, there was an update to it, and there was also an update to it today. Now Mike 10D has put together the dev server changes which happened after the dev server closed yesterday. So we're going to have a look at them, see how they affect stuff, and see if it's going to change some vehicles around and all of this stuff. It would be nice if we get a third dev server just to check if some of the bugs that were present in the first and second one were dealt with, but my idea is that this update is going to come mid next week, because that to me makes the most sense. If we look at when the update from last year, the year before, and the year before that came out, we're looking at the 15th, 19th, and I believe the 20th, so the mid of next week would be around that 19th and 20th range, and for me that makes sense. So, first of all, thank you to Mike 10D for making this post. If you want to actually help out Mike 10D, I believe he does have some links to either a PayPal or Patreon or something of that matter. I'll make sure to post the link to this post in the description so you can follow it up yourself. So let's move on to the changes. By the way, I'm wearing the glasses because I have a storming headache right now. The Shot Carl Dalet is now a rank 5 and not a rank 6. That was kind of an interesting one. The fact that it was a rank 6 vehicle. I actually joked in the video that I looked at the Shot Carl that it was the first actual true premium at that tier. For me, the XM1, the Leopard A1A1, and the T55AM are all rank 6 vehicles masquerading as rank 5s, and I thought it was kind of funny that, or at least ironic in a way, that the Shot Cow was at rank 6 instead of rank 5, because it kind of, for me, it was at its actual rank for once. Now obviously they put them at rank 5 because they don't want to give off the idea of selling tanks which get you straight into the highest rank of the game. Well, these vehicles range from 8.7 to 9.0, and at 9.0 with the XM1 you can get into the top tier battles by just purchasing something. Now, with the jets, you can do the same thing. As I've said in the past, I disagree with both of these decisions. So, the Shot Cal Delay is actually also up from it's actually down, to 8.3 instead of 8.7. I thought it was going to be fine at 8.7. The gun on the Shot Cal with its APF SDS was good, and since it was a premium, you unlocked it straight away. The only issue with it is the speed of it, and this is going to get it crucified against stuff like the Leopard A1A1s and the L44s. The T55Ms, the Shot Cal could easily deal with, and also even stuff like the XM1, but I think what they're taking into account here is the armor is not great on the Shot Cal, and also the engine is not powerful enough. It is more powerful than the other Centurions we have in game, but it isn't on the same level as the 8.7s and 9.0s that we see, apart from the Rise P. So I feel like that's why they're lowering it. To be honest, we're going to have to see where it lays. The lower the BR these premiums are, the better for actual, the people who buy them. I just hope that it doesn't break the game. I don't really see how it can, because it's pretty much just a slightly upgraded Centurion, and the only real big upgrade from it is the APF SDS. The M1341 and 3 are now folded. We had a look at these on the dev server yesterday. They actually were introduced in the second dev server, and the two of the vehicles, the only difference between them is that the first one could carry more ammunition. I couldn't find any other difference between them. So because of that, for me, foldering them makes sense, and also they were both reserves, which was nice, so you won't have to pay like repair costs and stuff for them. It'll be a good starter vehicle. It's just kind of odd to see two of them. The 7518 M41 and the 7532 M41 are now folded, so that's nice for grinding as well, and the 7534 M43 and 7546 M43 are also now folded. What's kind of interesting is, how a lot of people say that Gaijin makes the grind harder, or, they purposefully make the grind harder for people, especially on new trees, and, so people can't just go to the end game. That is not a move that facilitates that idea. That actually, this move goes counter to the idea that they're making it, harder for people to get to top tier. Because now you can just skip vehicles and just go on to the next ones. If they wanted to make it as hard as possible, they would make sure that none of these were folded, so you had to research through all of them to be able to get to the top stuff. But that isn't the case with this. Instead, what they're doing is foldering them, meaning that you can bypass some of them. Now, to me, if you folder a vehicle, that is kind of an acceptance that two of the vehicles are very similar to each other, and you don't want, a player just grinding through the same vehicle over and over again. So that's why you folder them, kind of like the T50E4s. So having folded them, I think that's pretty nice. The French tree could really do with some foldering. I'll say that because there's a lot of really bad rank 1 vehicles that if you come into the game and the first nation you play is French ground forces, you're installing the game after 5 games. The AMX-10RC, it went from 8.3 to 8.0 BR. Now, this isn't really a surprising change, even though it has a really good heat FS round, just a heat round. It doesn't have a heat FS, just a heat. The heat and the APF SDS round, both of them in their own situations can work really well. And on top of this, it's got decent maneuverability, but it struggles with heavy terrain. The big killer right now for the AMX-10RC, when we look at the 8.3 BR, is the same problem all the other French tanks have around that BR. No stabilizer. And without a stabilizer, you cannot ever have the advantage in an engagement where you are moving. This means that you inherently have to play defensive, and because of the AMX-10RC, because of its rounds, it isn't exactly easy to one-shot machines, same with stuff like the AMX-30s, and it means that even though you're this fast maneuverable vehicle, and you want to get into the enemy's face, you can't do that because of stabilizers. So, instead, you're forced to play defensive, which won't fit the vehicle, and you'll get kind of trounced. So lowering its BR obviously will help it in this. Overall, I don't think changing the BR of the AMX-10 gets rid of the inherent issue, unless you really dropped it to, let's say, 6.7, 6.3, which they're never going to do. But dropping it to 8.0, you're still going to run into a lot of those vehicles which are meta, which either have stabilizers or are incredibly quick across the ground, like the Leopard 1s and stuff. At least you'll get into a lot of 7.7 games, and 7.7s, like if you go against the American 7.7s, that's a really good matchup for the AMX with its heat and with its APF SDS. Against the British, it's a pretty bad matchup. Against the Italians, we're going to have to see how the OF40 performs with its ammo, but I feel like it will be kind of a fun fight. For me, when I look at the AMX-10, I can understand why it's going down. I kind of disagree with it, because I would keep it at the same BR and just add scouting to it, and then you don't have to now play hyper-aggressive with your maneuverability. Instead, you can kind of sit at the back, survey the battlefield, and then once everything's settled down, then you can move in and use your really good firepower. But instead, dropping it, not giving it scouting, fair enough. The next change is actually not a change. So they actually put the Meteor Mark 8 Reaper from 8 to 9.0. This was I believe it was on the first dev server as well. The Meteor Mark 8 was a 9.0, or at least somewhere it was a 9.0. It was either on the first or second dev server, but it's been reverted, so it's back to 8.0 now. Now, the Meteor Mark 8 Reaper, there seems to have been either 2 or more meteors which are called the Mark 8 Reaper. The one which I personally know is the one which was at the Farnborough Air Show, which has the fuel tanks. It has the additional guns on it, because you could add actually gun pods under the central fuselage. It doesn't have any hard points, but the fuel tanks and the extra stuff like that. And it would have been great to see that in game. Unfortunately, what we have, what it seems to be, is just a complete copy of the one that we have in the tree. So at least from my perspective of premium should just be versions of tech tree vehicles with, premium attached, then I'm happy about that. But it was portrayed as this different vehicle, and it just isn't. It's exactly the same as what you see in the tree. So if they want to keep it as a just complete copy of the vehicle, or at least very close to the copy, then yeah, put it a Dado. I think when we look at the 2 jets that were added to Britain, you've got the Meteor, which is the weakest out of the 3, and then you've got the Javelin, which is definitely the weakest out of the 3 that were added in the supersonic genre. Obviously, the Javelin isn't even supersonic, so it loses by default. So overall, yeah, I'm not surprised that it got dropped. I am happy to know that if I ever get my hands on the Mark 8 Reaper, that I will be more involved in some turn fighting instead of just straight up energy fighting, which the Mark 8, loses to stuff like the other Sabres at. The F100D's FM continues to be tweaked, so one of the things that I saw on the second dev server was that the only real advantage, actually no, 2 advantages. So the 2 advantages the F100 has over the MiG-19, which is kind of the 2 large battles now. Oh, sorry, the 2 head-to-head, boxing match of this update is those 2 vehicles. And the only advantages the F100 has is top speed, which will never really come into fruition. It will never really matter because it's so close between them already. And we're talking about after diving and stuff like this. And then it has weaponry. It's better in the weaponry department. So it gets access to 2 more air-to-air missiles, which does make a lot of difference, but you have to be in an offensive position to use it. If you are in a defensive position, you're screwed completely against the MiG. The MiG will just annihilate you, so you have to be able to go after and attack the MiG very early, and then try and zoom away. And then the MiG is just going to out-accelerate you, so once you turn, or once he forces you to turn with the air-to-airs, you're kind of screwed. The guns on the front are also a lot better than the MiGs, so head-to-head is going to have to be something to be thought about from the majority of players' points of view. But for me, the MiG-19 has the standout performance of the 2, just because of the ridiculous acceleration it has. The Javelin FM has not been updated in a meaningful way, but they've removed some pylons from the default loadout, so it should be better now. Well, that's wonderful. The the Flying Dorito the Flying Dorito will be a little bit lighter on default, which is good. The Javelin is never going to be a vehicle that is useful in War Thunder, and it misses 2 of the core tenets of that BR. It can't energy fight against the stuff which are energy fighters, and it cannot speed fight. I don't know even what you call it. It cannot out-zoom the boom and zoomers. So against the F100 and the MiG-19, you lose in the boom and zoom area, right? Completely. So you're always on the defensive, and there's nothing you can do. The energy fighters, like the Canada Air, are just going to annihilate you. They're just better than you in every way. They're literally better than you in every way. The only thing the Javelin has as better is the fact that it has access to air-to-air missiles. That's it on the Javelin. The guns are worse. The maneuverability is worse. The speed is worse. Everything. No wonder the Javelin is a 9-0. I'll just say that. Or at least it was on the dev server. The SDKFC 234, their minimum RPM is going from 200 to 800, so a very large change. They are changing all of the armored cars for the Italians. So the Fiat 6614, the Moonraker, the AUBL 74, the R3T106FA, the R3T20 FAHS. So basically, the one with the recoilless rifle on the roof, the one with the 2 recoilless rifles on the roof, the 6.7 with the 90, which slings Heat FS. That is going to be fun. That one. And then the one with the Olicon on the roof, which is at 3.3. It's a 1970s vehicle at 3.3. Yes, it is a dune buggy with an Olicon on it, but still, come on. The AB43 is also the rank 1 armored car with the 20, I believe. Overall, these to me are going to be the fun vehicles of the Italian tree. So I'm happy that they're getting a little bit of love in the RPM department, even though it is only minimum RPM. And also, they might be easier to hull break now. Well, if you're getting shot in these things, you're doing it wrong. You cannot get shot. Now, see it as a Type 60, Type 60 SPRG. Your job is not to get shot. Your job is to be able to sit around, to scout, and if you don't have scouting, to catch the enemy off guard. Once you've caught them off guard, run away, or, kill them, and then get around the enemy, flank them, and annihilate. That's basically what to look for. The L6040. Now, this is something I actually missed on the dev server, so we'll cover it here. There was an interesting plate on the L6040, as you can see outlined here, and it was 500 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor. The turret mantler as well of the Type 89, the new Japanese kind of Bradley thing, basically an IFV or an armored carrier. Sorry, it had 500 millimeters on the turret front. So with this L60, they've got rid of the 500 millimeters and replaced it with 5 millimeters of structural steel. So that's not really a surprise to me. The M113A1, so this is the one with the tow missile. And I wonder if it's also the one, I can't remember what it's called, but the 25, like the Seaman or the Sedan or the Seadam. It has visible crew, except they are American, interesting, and it also floats. So the M113, I believe, is supposed to float, so it's nice to see that it does, and also the crew's American. I'm guessing they'll change that. I mean, they have Italian models, right? We saw them on the dev server in some of the little cars, the AS42, and I'm sure they could just plug them into it. The M1340, all of them. The commander is now also the gunner. Makes sense, because there isn't technically a gunner in these machines. They're, I believe, 4-mans, the M1340. The gunner has been replaced by a loader, so yeah, that makes sense, to me, anyway. The M1542, the Hull MG gun mask, has gone from 25 to 30, and it's gone from RHA to CHA. It shouldn't really make any difference at all. The driver's hatch is going from 45 to 50. Okay, that can make a little bit of a difference, but that does just make it equal to the rest of this thing here. And if I believe the M15 has 50 millimeters of frontal armor. If it doesn't, then it has like 30. So nobody's going to shoot the driver's hatch anyway. But now, since it is 50, and if the rest of it is 50, then people might shoot the driver's hatch and not think about it. So you got to make sure to know about that. It is only 5 millimeters of difference, but you never know. The sides of the gun mask have gone from 25 to 30. This is for the machine gun that you can see up here, so on the left-hand side of the vehicle as you're looking at it. The Breda 501, they've made it easier to hull break, which is very sad. I wanted to do a review of the Breda 501, but after being completely disgusted by the Semavente 9053 and its absolutely abysmal gun, I didn't want to touch it again. So that gun, I mean, obviously not the vehicle. I will play the Breda when the Italians come out. The 7518 M41 and the 7532 M41, the hatches are now 50 millimeters. So this will give it increased protection from artillery and also aircraft. Pretty much they're going to have to shoot the engine deck now, which is completely fine. It won't give you that much protection or difference, but I suppose in those small scenarios where it matters, then it'll matter at least a little bit. The 10525 M43, so this is the premium Semavente, and also the one in the tech tree. So this is one of the pack vehicles. The second layer of gun mask is gone from 50 to 30, so they've reduced it. Doesn't matter, nobody's going to shoot it there. Just shoot it in the flat bit, like the whole front. You see how this, right, just shoot it in the flat bit, right? Preferably on the right side, because that's where the gunner sits. The 7534 M43 and 7546 M43, the thing around the gun barrel is now a 30mm armored plate. Nice. Once again, just shoot here. You don't need to shoot around the barrel. Just shoot here. The outer part of the inner gun mask, 75 to 50 millimeters, and the inner part of the inner gun mask is 75 to 50. So they've changed the armor values of this and also increased this. So overall, it won't make that much of a difference. I would just prefer... well, it doesn't really matter. You shouldn't be shooting at the gun. Just shoot around it, you know. Simple as. The Bradley, it now carries 12 toes instead of 10. Well, that's nice. The Bradley has some limiting factors to it, which are not really to do with the tow missiles. I mean, they are, but it's more about the mechanism of the tow missiles. I think it's a nice realistic thing, but it does mean that now you have a vehicle which is the size of a house, which can't always fire its tow missiles not at all at speed, but it can't always fire them even if you're going like 15 kilometers an hour. Or is it 20 on the Bradley? It is nice that they added in that battle cruise control though. I'm very, very happy to see that. The automatic now has unique gun sounds. Lovely. Before it was very, very similar to other stuff because it was the other stuff. And the T-72A has the unique gun sounds as well. The Vietnam Hills, the LODs, has been updated. I'm not exactly sure what that means. If you know what that means, let me know. Now, one of the big issues that I found with Vietnam Hills, when you're on the ground, it's beautiful. Absolutely stunning map. When you're in the air, it looks like absolutely awful. There's so much popping from that map. You can't really tell what's going on. And on top of this, because there's so much popping, you can see enemy vehicles all over the place, right? So you spot the enemy vehicle, and then everything pops in, but you know where that enemy vehicle is because nothing was there before apart from that enemy vehicle. Overall, that needs a little bit of tweaking. So if this change does that, I'll be very happy. The new unused flags to mark vehicles' country of origin. So we have Ukrainian flag, Canada modern flag, and that is after, I believe the modern flag for Canada is after the mid-1960s, maybe even 1965. So it may be it may be worth trying to start thinking about vehicles that we may see. Obviously, the Ukrainian flag is a little bit of a dodgy one right now with the relations between, let's say, Russia and Ukraine, but I think overall most people don't really care. And then the Canadian modern flag, like what vehicles could we see from these two nations, and what trees would they go in? Can you imagine if they put a Ukrainian tank in the Russian tree? Oh boy. The last one is the Shackleton MR Mark 1 bomb loads added. So we talked about the Shackleton ages ago. We talked about the Shackleton ages ago because I believe it was added into the files in update 1.83's dev server. And basically the Shackleton is a bomber, a coastal bomber, which is supposed to hunt ships and stuff like submarines, and it has 4 turboprops on it. It's British, so the bomb load of it should be really, really nice. And also the Mark 1 version that we're getting, a lot of people have been pushing around these ones which have 20mm connected to them. Well, you got to remember, that's I believe the Mark 3 version that people are looking at. The Mark 1 version, which is the one in the game files, did not have all of these 20mm turrets, all of it. So this is what worries me about the Shackleton. Yes, they're going to have a lot of power from the engine, but the Shackleton's heavy. Like, it's a heavy machine, and it doesn't have a lot of defensive weaponry. If it comes as a festive event vehicle, I think a lot of people will be annoyed, but I personally will be happy, since I like, the British bombers. But yeah, these are the changes to the dev server post the second dev server closing. If you want to see more information on the Shackleton, make sure just to type it in on my channel. I do have a video looking into the specific version of the Shackleton, which has been added to the files. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.